On Thanksgiving, my brother's wife went through my laptop while I was in the kitchen, and by the time I walked back into the living room, my entire family had already decided what to do with my money. I had just turned 32. I'd spent the last 6 years building a data consulting firm from a spare bedroom in my Austin apartment, surviving on black coffee and 4-hour nights, turning down weddings and birthday parties and every casual Friday night that my college friends kept inviting me to. I had $9.2 million sitting across 3 accounts, a team of 11 people who trusted me to make payroll every month, and zero intention of telling anyone in my family any of that. They never asked how I was doing. Not once. Not in 6 years, so I never told them. The holiday had been my brother's idea. He called me in October, voice warm in that particular way that always meant he wanted something. "Come on, it'll be good for us. Mom's been asking about you. Just one Thanksgiving. We'll do it at my place in Phoenix." I said yes because I was tired of saying no, because some part of me still wanted to believe that family meant what the word was supposed to mean. I should have trusted my instincts and stayed home. His house was big in the way that people's houses get when they're spending faster than they're earning. New furniture still stiff at the corners. A kitchen renovation that hadn't quite been finished. My sister-in-law greeted me at the door in a designer wrap dress, her smile just a half-second too wide, and I immediately felt the thing I always feel around her. That specific kind of alertness you get around someone who is always calculating. My brother hugged me. My mother was already on the couch, a glass of white wine in her hand, and she looked up and said, "There she is," like I was late to something I hadn't known I was invited to. Dinner was fine, surface level fine. My sister-in-law talked about a renovation they were planning for the backyard. My brother talked about a deal at his commercial real estate firm that was about to close. My mother asked me gentle, deflecting questions about whether I was seeing anyone, and I gave gentle, deflecting answers. Nobody asked about my work. They never did. I had learned years ago that what I did, data infrastructure consulting, pipeline architecture, enterprise contracts, made their eyes glaze over in about 45 seconds, so I'd stopped trying to explain it. I excused myself to help with dishes around 8. I left my laptop bag in the living room. It was locked. I was certain it was locked because I always lock it. Because I have clients whose data security alone is worth more than most people's net worth. Because locking my laptop is as automatic to me as locking my car. What I didn't know, what I found out later, was that my sister-in-law had been watching me type my password for the last 2 years. She'd told my brother, and my brother, who had apparently decided that tonight was the night, had unlocked it while I was standing at the sink with my hands in soapy water, talking to my mother about her book club. I heard it from across the house. Not words at first, just a sharp inhale, the kind people make when something knocks the air out of them. Then my sister-in-law's voice, high and theatrical, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh you seeing this?" I turned off the faucet. By the time I walked back into the living room, my brother was standing over the coffee table with my laptop open, my financial dashboard on the screen, and my mother's hand pressed over her mouth like she was watching something terrible on the news. I stood in the doorway and felt the floor shift under me. "What are you doing?" I said. Not a question, flat. My brother looked up. His face was doing something complicated, surprise and hunger and something that looked almost like relief, like he'd been waiting for this for a long time. "Why didn't you tell us?" I walked across the room and closed the laptop because it's none of your business. My sister-in-law laughed, not a real laugh, a performance of disbelief. None of our business. She's been sitting on millions, and it's none of our business. "That's right," I said. My mother set down her wine glass. "Sweetheart," her voice had shifted into that register she used when she wanted me to feel small. Gentle. Patient, like I was being unreasonable and she was the only adult in the room. "We're family." "I know what we are, Mom." "Then you know that family doesn't keep secrets like this." I looked at her. I had helped her pay for her car 3 years ago. I'd done it quietly, no announcement, because she'd been struggling after the divorce, and I hadn't wanted her to feel embarrassed. She'd said thank you and never mentioned it again. I'd been fine with that. I hadn't done it for gratitude. I wondered now if she'd been filing that information away. recalibrating what she thought I had, calculating. "You went through my private property," I said to my brother. He had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable for about half a second. Then my sister-in-law stepped forward and the moment passed. "Nobody went through anything. It was open." "It wasn't open." "Well," she shrugged, a tiny sharp shrug, "we saw what we saw." My mother stood up and came toward me the way she does when she's about to say something she's rehearsed. "We're not asking for anything unreasonable. You have more than enough. More than you could ever spend. Your brother's deal fell through last month. They need help. I need help. We're not strangers. We're your family. And all we're asking is that you think about what it means to take care of the people who raised you." "My brother's deal fell through." "Of course it did." "I'm going to bed," I said. "You can't just walk away from this conversation," my sister-in-law said. "Watch me." I lay in the guest room with the lights off, staring at the ceiling, listening to the murmur of their voices through the wall. I couldn't make out words, only the rhythm of it, low and urgent, the sound of people making a plan. After an hour I got up, went to the kitchen for water, and stood in the dark hallway long enough to hear my brother say, "If she won't agree voluntarily, we need to look at the other option." My sister-in-law's voice, quieter. "The attorney said it's viable. She'd have to contest it, and that takes time." And I went back to the guest room. I sat on the edge of the bed. I breathed. I didn't sleep. In the morning, I was up before anyone else. I sat in the kitchen with my coffee and my laptop, which I had moved to my bedroom the night before, and which now had a new password. And I did what I should have done 6 months ago when I'd started getting the small signs, the ones I'd talked myself out of noticing. I called my attorney. She answered on the second ring, which told me her morning was already going sideways too. I told her what had happened. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Did they show you anything in writing?" "Not yet." "They will," she said. "Give me a few hours." I sat through breakfast. My sister-in-law made eggs and acted like nothing had happened. My brother poured coffee and asked if I'd slept okay. My mother patted my hand at the table and said the food was wonderful, wasn't it? And I said yes and ate the eggs and kept my face completely still. What I had learned early in business, the thing that had kept me alive in rooms full of men who wanted to underestimate me, was that you never let someone know you know. You wait, you gather. You let them show you the whole shape of what they're planning before you move. They showed me the shape 3 hours later. My brother knocked on the guest room door while I was on a call and came in without waiting for an answer, which told me exactly how the next conversation was going to go. He sat in the chair by the window. He had a folder with him. He set it on the bed like he was doing me a favor. "We had this drawn up a while ago," he said. We've been worried about you. Living alone, running everything by yourself, no one looking out for you. We thought a family trust structure might actually protect you." I picked up the folder. I opened it. Family Asset Management Agreement. My name listed as the primary asset holder. My brother and sister-in-law listed as co-managers. My mother as a secondary beneficiary. A clause, buried on page 4, that gave the management committee discretionary authority over distributions. I set it back down. "When did you draw this up?" I asked. He cleared his throat. "A few months ago." "Before last night." "We've been worried for a while." "So you had this prepared before you knew how much I had?" He shifted in the chair. "We knew you were doing well, we just didn't know the extent." There it was. They'd known. For how long, I didn't know, but they'd known, and they'd been planning this. Not as a reaction to last night's discovery, but as a long-running project that last night had simply accelerated. I thought about the car I'd bought my mother. I thought about the birthday deposits I'd made for my niece's college fund. Quietly, without being asked. I thought about the phone call 6 months ago when my brother had just been curious about whether my company was doing okay, and I'd said yes, fine, great, without giving details, and he'd said that was great, really great, so good to hear. He'd been fishing. I stood up. I need some air. The afternoon was clear and cold, and I drove to a coffee shop 12 minutes from my brother's house and sat in a corner booth and called my attorney back. I sent her photos of every page of the document. She was quiet for a long time. "This is a legitimate legal instrument," she said finally. which makes it more serious, not less. Someone spent real money on this. How do I kill it? You don't sign it, obviously, but they may try other angles. If they can make any kind of case that you're not managing your assets responsibly. They can't. I know, but they might try. She paused. Is there anything they could use? Late filings, anything public-facing that looks? No, I said. My books are clean, my filings are perfect. My accountant is better than their attorney. Good, she said. Don't sign anything, don't discuss your finances with them again, and get out of that house. I drove back. I packed my bag. I came downstairs, and my mother was in the living room, and she looked at my bag, and her face did something I hadn't expected. Not anger, but something closer to grief, like she genuinely believed this was going to go differently. You're leaving, she said. Yes. Just like that. Mom, I said, you had legal documents prepared to take control of my money. I don't know what version of this conversation you were expecting, but this is the only one I have. She pressed her lips together. We were trying to help you. You were trying to help yourselves. My brother came out of the kitchen. My sister-in-law hovered in the hallway. The three of them had the particular energy of people who had run their plan and were now waiting to see if it would hold. It didn't hold. If you walk out right now, my sister-in-law said, don't expect us to be here when you change your mind. I picked up my bag. I won't change my mind. I made it to the airport hotel before everything started going wrong in a different direction. I was unpacking my laptop charger when my phone rang, unknown number with an Austin area code. I almost let it go to voicemail. I didn't. Is this? The voice on the other end was a paralegal at a firm I'd never heard of. She was calling to inform me that a petition had been filed that afternoon in Travis County, a request for conservatorship over my personal finances. The petitioners had submitted documentation suggesting I was financially vulnerable and at risk of exploitation due to social isolation and stress-related decision-making impairments. I sat down on the edge of the hotel bed. Who filed it? I asked, though I already knew. She read the names. My brother, my mother, my sister-in-law as a supporting declarant. I called my attorney from the hotel bathroom with the fan running because I needed white noise to think. She was quiet for 4 seconds, I counted, and then she said, They moved faster than I expected. Can they do this? They can file it. That doesn't mean it goes anywhere. But you need to get back to Austin now, and you need to bring me everything. Every financial record, every communication, every business document that shows you are precisely the kind of person no court would put under a conservatorship. I drove to the airport at midnight. I sat at the gate for 3 hours with my laptop open, pulling together 6 years of documentation, tax returns, board minutes, client contracts, the risk management framework I'd built from scratch and that 3 Fortune 500 companies now ran their data operations through. I sent it all to my attorney in a file that took 11 minutes to upload. My phone kept buzzing. My mother, my brother? A number I didn't recognize that turned out to be my sister-in-law calling from her office line. I silenced them all. Then, around 2 a.m., a different notification. My business partner, I'll call her the person who has kept me sane for 5 years, sent me a screenshot. My sister-in-law had posted on social media. A long caption, the crying but dignified kind that was engineered for maximum sympathy. My brother was in the attached photo looking tired and concerned. The caption said they'd tried everything, that I'd become a different person since the money, that they just wanted their family back, that they were heartbroken. The post had 300 comments inside an hour. Most of them were the predictable kind, strangers who had absorbed one side of a story and felt qualified to deliver a verdict on the other person's character. A few of my brother's professional contacts had commented. One of them was someone I'd met at a conference, someone who'd been considering whether to refer me to a client. My business partner texted, "You need to get ahead of this." I thought about it for an hour. I'm not someone who performs publicly. The work I do exists mostly invisible to people outside my industry, and I prefer it that way. But I also know that silence in the face of a narrative gets read as confirmation. I typed it once, read it 3 times, and posted it. I've stayed quiet about a private family situation because I believe some things should remain private. I'm breaking that silence only because misinformation is affecting my professional relationships. I love my family. I also have the right to manage my own finances without interference. Those two things are not in conflict, unless someone decides they should be. I won't be saying more about this publicly. The legal system will handle the rest. I put my phone in my bag and didn't look at it again until I landed. My attorney met me at her office at 7 in the morning. She had coffee ready and a look on her face that I'd learned to read as this is serious but winnable. We spent 4 hours building the response to the conservatorship petition. The documentation was overwhelming. 11 client contracts, 6 years of audited financials, letters from my accountant, my business partner, 2 board members of companies I'd advised, a statement from my therapist. Yes, I have one. Yes, I started going 2 years ago. Yes, it is one of the best decisions I've ever made, confirming that I was neither isolated nor impaired. The petition was denied 14 days later. The judge's written dismissal included the phrase, "no credible evidence of vulnerability." My attorney framed a copy and put it on her wall. I asked her to send me the invoice immediately so I could pay it before the end of the quarter. My sister-in-law deleted the social media post. My brother called once, a week after the dismissal, and left a voicemail that started with the words, "I think we got off on the wrong foot," and ended with something about how we hoped we could eventually move past this as a family. I listened to it once and didn't call back. My mother sent a card, a physical card, handwritten. She said she was sorry for how things had gone, that she missed me, that she hoped I knew she hadn't meant to hurt me. I believed that she believed it. I'm not sure that's the same as it being true. I didn't send a card back. I didn't call. I put her number on a list that I check once a month, and if there's a medical emergency or something that genuinely requires my attention, I will respond. Otherwise, I've let it go quiet. What's strange is that quiet doesn't feel like loss the way I thought it would. It feels like a room with the windows finally open. My company signed 2 new clients in the months after everything happened. One of them came through a referral from the conference contact I'd been worried about. He'd read my statement and followed up himself to say he respected how I'd handled it. I shook his hand over a video call and thought about my sister-in-law's post, the one engineered to make me look unhinged, and how it had somehow managed to do the opposite. I turned 33 in Austin with my business partner and 3 friends I've had since graduate school. We ate too much and talked too loud, and nobody asked me a single question about money. I drove home at midnight with the windows down even though it was cold and thought, this is what I was protecting, not the number in the accounts. This. I've thought a lot about what I would tell someone who's in the version of this I was in, the early part, when it still feels like maybe you're misreading things, maybe you're being paranoid, maybe you owe them the benefit of the doubt because they're family, and that's supposed to mean something. Here's what I'd tell them. Trust the alertness. That specific feeling you get when something is being calculated in a room and you can't quite name it yet, that feeling is information. Don't talk yourself out of it because it's inconvenient. Don't wait for them to show you the whole plan before you start building your response. You earned what you earned. Nobody is owed a share of your life just because they share your last name. I'm not saying let go of everyone. I'm saying let go of the people who only show up when there's something to take. There's a difference, and you're allowed to know the difference, and you're allowed to act on it. A few weeks ago, I was reviewing a contract at my kitchen table at 10 at night, the same table I've had since my first apartment, the same mug I've used for 7 years. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt that particular low-grade dread I used to carry, the one that came from managing other people's perceptions of me, from trying to stay small enough not to invite the wrong kind of attention. It was gone. I hadn't noticed it leaving. That's how it goes sometimes, the good things. They happen quietly, between all the other things, and you only catch them when you finally stop long enough to notice the absence of what used to hurt. If any part of this sounds familiar to you, if you know that alertness, if you've been sitting with it and trying to decide what it means, drop a 1 in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, subscribe and turn on notifications because I have more to say and I'm just getting started. The night I sat alone in that airport hotel, watching the conservatorship notification load on my screen, I kept thinking about the car. The one I'd quietly helped my mother pay off 3 years earlier. I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't asked for anything back. I just did it because I could, and because she needed it, and because I thought that was what decent people did for the people they loved. What I understand now, that I didn't understand then, is that decency only works when it flows in both directions. It isn't weakness to be generous, but it becomes something close to self-destruction when you keep extending it to people who have already decided that your generosity is simply their entitlement. My brother didn't become someone capable of filing a fraudulent legal petition overnight. The person who did that had been building toward it for years. Every phishing call about whether my company was doing okay, every calculated silence when I needed support, every small test to see how much I would give before I'd pushed back. What happened at Thanksgiving was just the moment the plan finally broke the surface. The cause had been laid down long before the consequence arrived. I think about that a lot. How outcomes rarely come from nowhere. How the thing that blindsides you was usually visible if you'd been willing to look. Here's what I wish I'd understood sooner. Staying quiet about your own life is not the same as being safe. I thought that by not talking about my money, I was protecting myself. What I was actually doing was leaving a vacuum that other people filled with assumptions, and then plans, and then documents with my name on them. The smartest thing I did, not because it felt smart, but because my attorney told me to and I had enough sense to listen, was to stop waiting for the full picture before I acted. I called her before I had proof of everything. That call, made at 7 in the morning from a guest room while my family ate eggs downstairs, is the reason the conservatorship petition lasted 14 days instead of 14 months. Clarity under pressure is not something you either have or you don't. It's something you build. Every time you make a decision based on what you actually observe instead of what you wish were true, you're strengthening something. Every time you hold your position in a room full of people telling you that you're wrong to hold it, you're building the kind of spine that doesn't collapse when the real pressure comes. I had to learn that in boardrooms before I could use it in my own family's living room. The skill was the same. The stakes just felt different because it was personal. What carried me through wasn't certainty. It was the willingness to keep moving through uncertainty without abandoning my own judgment. That's the thing nobody tells you about difficult situations. You don't get to feel sure before you act. You act, and then eventually you feel sure, and by then it's over, and you're standing on the other side of it, wondering why you waited as long as you did. The conservatorship was denied. My mother's card is in a drawer somewhere. My brother's voicemail sat unheard for 2 weeks before I deleted it. And I still have the same kitchen table, the same mug, the same work I love. None of that changed. The only thing that changed was who was allowed to be part of it. That turned out to be enough.